Okay, today we have the pleasure of meeting and talking with Miss Angelia Gil. She is a change management and organizational design professional, top in the industry, and she's going to talk to us today about some of the things that have brought her to the decisions of this particular career. How are you doing today?
Well, fantastic today. Thank you for having me, Freddie.
You're welcome. You're welcome. It's such a pleasure to be able to connect again with you and everything. So what I'll do is I'll just jump right into it and ask you just to introduce yourself.
I am, yes, an organizational development and change management specialist, and I am currently working as a program director at a nonprofit, and I have a side business as well as I'm an entrepreneur. So I am originally from Mississippi, and Starkville, Mississippi is my hometown. And I love working with groups to do a variety of activities, and that's where my superpower lies.
Oh, your superpower. Say more about your superpower.
Yeah. So I believe I haven't taken any personality tests, but I believe I'm a strong extrovert, and that means that I get my power from working with others and being around others. And I have found that in careers and opportunities that I've been a part of, the roles where I get to collaborate and connect with other people and maybe even help them to discover something about themselves or about a process. Uh, it just really fulfills me. And so I've learned that when I learn about myself, I've learned that I'm my best self and my strengths are best shown in opportunities where I get to collaborate with others.
Wow, that's so powerful. You know, oftentimes we have our kids are encouraged to learn how to be successful independently, and that doesn't often jive with the job world, the professional world. And collaboration is, really critical with being able to be successful in your career.
So true. And now that we have a variety of industries and we're able to be mobile quickly and virtually, we're going to connect with people from not just other states but all over the world.
Hmm.
And that's going to be expected. That's going to be a foundational expectation in a variety of careers. So that is definitely a skill set that, if it's not a natural one that you have or possess, is one that's worth investing in developing.
Okay, that's pretty amazing. So, how long have you been working in this particular field?
Yes, yes. So let's see. I'll break it down. I think of this with my program director role. I've been there for 2 years, and with my business, my entrepreneur role, I've been there for 3 years, which is great. It's got its legs now. It's a teenager now, so my business is growing. So I'm excited about that. And as far as the organizational development, that's been a skill set that I've been doing for a long time. So I would say about 10 years with that one. But yes, currently my program director role, I've been there 2 years. So I'll just uh, keep it concise and talk about that.
That's outstanding. It's outstanding. So, tell us about the place where you work.
Wonderful question. So I work at a nonprofit, and a nonprofit is an organization that came together to typically be in service of a community that needs assistance. And so I work at a nonprofit that is called Darkness to Light, and that organization has been around for about 20 years. And the mission of Darkness to Light is to prevent child sexual abuse. And that's a topic that's pretty heavy, but it's one that needs talking about. And so at Darkness to Light, we understand the assignment and what we have to do, and we understand how difficult it is to have conversations about child sexual abuse with people who may not want to talk about it. So what we do typically at Darkness to Light is have educational presentations. We have training opportunities that people can take online themselves, or they can have us deliver it. And we also have a special service at Darkness to Light where we work with organizations. Say, for
Mm.
instance, YMCA or Boys and Girls Club or organizations that serve young people.
Hmm.
We help those organizations to look at their environment to find out how risky it is for child sexual abuse to occur. So we help them look at the organization and make some changes to strengthen their practices and their procedures so that kids can be safe.
That's outstanding. Uh, typically when kids are coming out of high school or college, they tend to shy away from nonprofit sector. There's a little bit of mystery around whether or not you're going to make money or whether or not you're going to have fulfillment. What made you decide to choose a nonprofit?
Yeah, so I have a heart for community, and since I grew up with four other siblings, there was five of us, so four other siblings raised by a single parent. I think I have just been equipped to have compassion for other people and to know what it is to make a lot out of little. So I have a perception, I think, of the working world that's not tied to earning a lot of money. And
Hmm.
it's true, as far as in the nonprofit world, there are some opportunities to earn a lot of money, but not as many opportunities as there would be in a corporate, a different corporate environment. And so I chose the nonprofit environment because that's what my makeup is, right? As far as helping people without looking for something financial or self oriented in return. And so when you weigh the benefits of what you get, and sometimes those benefits are not financial. When you weigh the benefits of what you get, which is peace of mind, fulfillment, um, being connected to your purpose.
Hmm.
So when you weigh those benefits, I think it just compels you to go in the direction that your heart is calling.
And see the energy and excitement that shines around you when you talk about the work that you're doing. And that's part of the stuff that we work on as well with Ebony Tree Council. We want to encourage young folks to really look at community, as you mentioned. In fact, one of the outgoing projects for kids that we'll be doing will be a community social active project within their community, because we want to encourage young folks to give back. Even though it may not be sometimes financially secure, what you mentioned was so much more important, was being able to follow your passion and fulfill yourself in a way that it transcends money, it transcends all those typical things that people try to encourage folks to look after for a career. Yeah, and it's a mission of service from the heart. So that's really really amazing that you're working on that. So what's a typical day like for you at Darkness to Light?
So, so what you'll find when you're working at a nonprofit organization, or if you're going into the entrepreneur route and working for yourself, what you'll find is there's a lot of systems, there's a lot of processes, there's a lot of templates and documents that need to be created.
Mm.
So at Darkness to Light, a typical day for me is to create a document that would support a process in order to service the community, to create a program um, that would service the community. Right now, what we're working on is there's a community in Brooklyn, and they want, well, the founder, the not the founder, but the sponsor, the person who's making the money available, wants us to go to this community in Brooklyn because he or she has special interests and ties to that community and provide child sexual abuse prevention support. And
Hmm.
it's not just training, but it's support for that community. And so what we're doing right now is exploring the community. Have a trip planned to go there in a couple weeks because I need to talk to people, find out what they understand about this topic, what their concerns are about this topic, and understand what their culture teaches them about engaging with this this topic issue. So, for example, in the Hispanic community, there's a lot of multi generational living, which means
Mm-hmm.
that grandma lives, their cousins live. A lot of that goes
Mm-hmm.
on. It's typical. And when you think about the topic of child sexual abuse, sometimes that increases the risk if there are family members there that are not the small knit family, so the extended families there, that increases the risk just because there's not a lot of monitoring going on, and if someone wants to do harm, they can more easily do it. So if that is a this is a long example here, sorry, but if that is a truth about that particular community,
Mm-hmm.
the Hispanic community, then we have to come up with solutions and resources for that community to still help them do the right thing and protect children with respect to their cultural identities and practices. So we're going to Brooklyn pretty soon. So a typical day is figuring out what communities need
Mm-hmm.
by talking to them, by spending time with them, and creating solutions that are culturally relevant and valuable for that particular community.
Man, that's intense. And I suppose, the first thing I think about in that type of scenario too is you have to really understand, at least at a high level, state and federal guidelines for child protection as well in those scenarios.
Exactly. Exactly. We have a legal team that helps us understand those aspects. Um, and once we understand them and we present them to particular communities, they actually could say, so this is great. They could say, no, I don't want that. I don't want that recommendation. This is a good example. One of the things that we tell communities all the time about child sexual abuse is if a child tells you that they've been abused, it's important to report that to
Hmm.
law enforcement, to DSS, to
Hmm.
the authorities. In the African American community, considering the climate right now, that
Right.
may not be well received.
Right.
It
Yeah.
may do more harm than good. So
Hmm.
those are some of the things that we keep in mind and try to make recommendations and solutions that are sensitive to that
Hmm.
particular community, considering what their mindset is and what they're experiencing. So
Wow, I bet that's kind of tough to kind of navigate, changing climate to, what's acceptable and what's not. I never even considered, but you're absolutely right. In this climate that we're in right now, calling the authorities could result in an exchange like what we've seen on national headlines, all along. And no one wants to be the impetus of that in their own community, especially.
yeah, so in situations like that, we come up with more socially approved methods of justice to provide to those types of communities who do not have a fond um, uh, perception or experience with authorities. We help them to find socially approved internal methods of justice and and to remedy the, the the issue that they find in a community. If there is a harm due, if there is someone who's doing something wrong, um, it doesn't always have to go. I mean, we would like it to go to law enforcement, but it doesn't always have to go that route, especially if there's a way to get justice that the community is satisfied with internally. We encourage them to do that. So it's an interesting day in the life, especially with this topic
Yeah.
of child sexual abuse.
Seems like in that environment, every day could potentially be different for you.
Absolutely. So many different ethnicities and cultures, and then locations. So
Hmm.
people, certain geographic locations have different experiences. So yes, it is very different every day. Now in my entrepreneurial role, a day in the life is creating presentations, researching topics, creating presentations, and creating workshops to help clients, and the clients are teams, either adult
Hmm.
teams or youth groups, helping them to better understand their inner workings, who they are, how their feelings work, and how their feelings can lead to certain behaviors that could enhance or hinder a team working environment. And so, what I do is a lot of research in my entrepreneurial role and creating resources to help groups to work together as a team.
I suppose you have to be real comfortable being creative in that role. So, I've seen
Absolutely.
some of your work. You're absolutely very creative, so that's
Thank you,
pretty cool
thank you.
too.
Yeah, I have all kind of fidget toys and fun devices to help with workshops. So yes, you have to be creative in
Nice,
that role.
nice, nice. Sounds like it could get kind of busy too as well. So I'm kind of wondering, how do you affect a decent work-life balance in that?
Yeah, so that's a wonderful question and one that I have recently been exploring. Um, so Stephen Covey is an author, and he wrote a book called Seven Habits of Highly Effective People. And not only is he really good at understanding what makes an effective, high functioning person, but he's also really good at understanding time management and prioritization. And so, what I've been doing is looking at some of his resources that he has available and making them work for myself. One that I really, really like is his concept of rocks, pebbles.
Mm,
I really like it, and I've been utilizing it for the past couple weeks here. So when you ask me about work-life balance, there was a time where I did not do well with it, and I felt overwhelmed,
mm,
and my family felt it, and
mm,
so I sought out some help. And so with with this method, with Stephen Covey's rocks, pebbles, and sand, what I've been doing is working on the rocks, which are things that are really meaningful to you in life, things that are related to the role that you hold. So I'm a wife, I'm a mom, I'm a sister, those roles that you hold. And so I've been focusing on getting those done, not not completely every day, right? But dedicating time to those rocks and being satisfied with my day's effort. Previously, what I was doing was trying to get all the pebbles. And if you look up the pebbles, you'll understand what the rocks, pebbles, and
mm-hmm,
sand mean. But I was working on getting all the pebbles, and just feeling like I couldn't get them all done. And what I had to shift my perspective and be satisfied with those rocks because those are the more important things that are meaningful in my life. And I do.
mm-hmm.
I feel so much better now. My work life balance today is a Friday. I feel great, right? Because I've already worked on my rocks. And I have 2 hours after this dedicated to some pebbles. But what's most important, I've already done it. And so I feel great, and my family gets the best part of me because I've had a perspective shift. Work is definitely not worth having a nervous breakdown. So yes, I've gotten better at this work life balance, and I'm happy right now. So this is good.
Yeah, that's pretty profound. What you just said a few minutes ago is work is never, man, I need you to repeat that.
Oh, that's breakdown. Yes, yes, yes. Work is not worth having a nervous breakdown over. It's really not.
Amen. Yeah.
I was watching some documentary about this. I think it was called Happy, but it was all about what it takes to make people happy in different cultures, and it was just highlighting some people in Japan, I believe, who did have breakdowns, and some people who died
Hmm.
because they were overworking themselves, and God commands us to rest. So it's something to it. God understands what we need, and that's
Hmm.
why I want to prioritize it. I can be my best self and live my best purpose driven life. So yeah,
Yeah, and that's absolutely important. I mean, our educational system kind of, again, enforces this model of get out there and do all you can and be all you can and leave it out on the field and give 110% and, you know, climb the ladder as fast as you can. And the folks that pursue that end up finding themselves at some point down the line, a little bit unfulfilled. So being able to include that life balance now where family matters and where you matter and your relationship to, a higher power matters as well, keep that energy balance really, really on point.
absolutely. We have enough stress, just other people. So we definitely need that work life balance, and it's okay. And that's another not quote but a saying that I heard that I thought was amazing was how self care is a form of resistance, right? And so you think about
Yeah.
for for people of African American descent, it's like okay, yeah, as far as the ancestors and slavery and things that occurred where we could not rest, we could not sit down, we could not take care of ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
Nowadays, we don't need to keep adopting that mindset of leaving it all on the field and just keep going
Mm-hmm.
until we can't go anymore. We need to take care of ourselves. That is a form of resistance, and I love it.
That's beautiful.
I love
That's
it.
beautiful. And I can just kind of picture, back in the day where our ancestors were, I know what he said, dude, but I'm going to take this moment here and rest under this
Yes,
tree,
yes,
you
wherever you
know,
can.
and
Yes,
sing my hymns and sing my
mhm,
songs
right.
and
Peace of
get a
mind.
little piece of myself back, so I can keep going forward, man. That's powerful. That's powerful. So you mentioned that you were one of four, single mom, growing up. If you had to go back now and talk to your 15-year-old self, what would be some of the things that you would encourage?
Yeah. So I think the most important thing I would say, aside from I need to respect my mom. The most important thing I would say is it's okay to get help in order to heal. Um, and what I mean by that is the emotional strain that is put on young people, especially young people who come from limited resource environment. Um, that emotional strain, that psychological weight is put on young people, and sometimes it's hard to know how to deal with it. And you find yourself in an environment where you have to make adult decisions, and figure out how to survive, and that is a heavy burden,
Mhm.
and one that shapes your mind, and changes the developmental process that your mind is going through at that young age. And so what I'm learning today about how trauma works, is that your brain can, neuroplasticity is available, which allows your brain to learn new pathways, learn new things, and be healed, right? So it can recover, but the injury and the detrimental effects of that trauma are real,
Mhm.
and a lot of times we don't recognize it or deal with it and get the healing. And so what I would tell my younger self is to get help, find help, right? I mean, my younger self would have to identify it first. So hopefully there's a
Right.
mentor of some sort that can help my 15-year-old self identify the trauma. But once it's identified, I would tell my younger self to get help. It's okay to
Mhm.
reach out. And the reason why that's so important as far as getting help is because my mom was a single mom. She never got help for
Mhm.
anything that I saw, right? I mean, she would make it work, um, which I know is commendable, but that again is a heavy burden, and we don't have
Right.
to struggle as hard as we do if we would seek out help. So that's what I would tell my younger self: get help so that you can be healed.
So how would that compare to what you would tell your 22-year-old self?
Ooh, it was a mess. Ooh, yeah. So I would tell my 22-year-old self was very self-centered, um, and because there was a lot of hurt and burden put upon my 15-year-old self,
Mhm.
my 22-year-old self took out a lot of that hurt on others. So
Mhm.
hurt people.
Yeah.
And so I would tell my 22-year-old self to sit down, to be loving, to be gentle, to be generous. Um, that it's okay to exist in my feminine power,
Mhm.
and there's a lot that goes into that. But I would tell her that it's okay to let your guard down and let somebody in, let somebody love you. I
Mhm.
would tell her that. Um, yeah, and to find the healing so that she can stop hurting people. Yeah, I think at 22, I had more resources and ability to hurt other people at that age, and so there was a lot of that going on. And when I say hurt, I'm talking about emotional hurt. right? Making sure people felt, making sure people knew I didn't need them, kind of thing. I don't need
Yeah.
you,
Yeah.
and it was just, it was
That
terrible.
it's self-defense. It's a self-defense mechanism too. So.
Absolutely, absolutely. And so I would,
Yeah.
yeah, I would give her a hug, even though she
Mm.
wouldn't want one, and and tell her to stop hurting people and to let love
I really appreciate your transparency on that. In our community, as you well know, anything that looks and smells like vulnerability is kind of looked upon in a negative lens. Whereas in truth, uh, when we become open to be vulnerable and transparent and honest with ourselves about our journey, it's liberating. It opens so much more of us up to possibilities that's just unimaginable. That's
for the
amazing.
bravery. And you know, Brene Brown talks
Yeah.
about that. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
That's what the bravery is, and it takes a lot of courage to go in that direction. Um, and I'm learning that today, right? And it's so liberating to
Hmm.
feel the the feelings that come with being open and vulnerable, and knowing that I am exposed, and that is okay. That is okay. I'm going to feel uncomfortable, but my but what I'm doing is stretching my emotions and my mind to a place where I see the strengths that I didn't know I had, and there's no coming back from that. Once you stretch
Yes.
your mind to a place where you are just brave beyond belief, you can do anything.
Yes. And it takes so much less energy as compared to hiding behind the mask of who we think we're supposed to show to the world. It's exhausting.
Absolutely, you're representative. You
Yes,
know,
your representative shows up, and it takes a lot. Representatives are all high maintenance people, so
you got to remember at the end of the day, we're all humans. We all want the same thing:
yes.
affirmation, acceptance, security.
Mhm.
We all want the same thing.
Yes,
So why not show that humanity, and perhaps you'll connect with another person's humanity and see what greatness can happen.
that's incredible. That's incredible. Well, Miss Angelia,
Yeah.
Leah, it has been quite an amazing time sharing with you. Again, really appreciate your willingness to connect and to be open and transparent with what you're sharing there. Um, what we're gonna do, if you guys up for it,
Yes.
we're gonna have a final lightning question here, just one.
Okay. Let's
And
see.
the floor will be yours. And here's the setup. So, fast forward 5 years from now, and you've achieved everything on your list of goals to accomplish. What new habits did you develop to get there, and what did you let go of?
That's really good. 5 years from now, I've accomplished everything I needed to. What new habits did I acquire? What did I let go of? I have acquired a new habit of setting my intention for each day, being visualizing, what my day is going to look like, and being intentional about speaking into existence what my day is going to be. And so making time for that every day, I truly believe, psychologically speaking, we can program ourselves to be better people. Absolutely. And I don't do that enough. Uh, so I would adopt that habit in order to be successful. Oh, yes, I would have adopted a habit of speaking life into my kids and my husband. So speaking uplifting, life giving words to them because they need to be better people when it comes to loving themselves, right? And so I have to remind them and show them and affirm them in order for them to be better people in that way because they're critical of themselves. And it's probably because I tell them this is what we need to work on. And so one of the goals I have is for them to know that they are amazing and awesome. And so I would have adopted a habit of speaking life into them. Um, and then the third one, related to my, I want to say related to my business. So I would have adopted a habit of getting up early. I don't mean early, four, four-ish. Getting up early and working on my business in order to crank out products and resources in a timely manner. So I would have done as well, platforms from now to be successful. What would I let go of? I kind of alluded to it. So the balance of um, affirmations versus corrections for my kids, I would have let go. I would have altered that balance. I guess that dynamic. The 80% would be more affirmations, and the 20% would be more corrections. Um, so I would have altered that. I would have let go of the 80% corrections. And I would have let go of my guilty pleasure of honey bunches of oat cereal as it relates to my fitness and weight goals. I would have let that go. Yeah. So that is something I would let go. And then I think that's it as far as letting go. I'm a pretty self aware and self disciplined person. I'm very much am, and I know everybody's not, but I don't have a whole I don't have very many bad habits, other than the ones I just mentioned.
Mm.
So there's not a whole lot else I can think of as far as what I would look for. Because I already pretty, I do a really good job of making sure I manage my projects and my time. So yeah, my relationships. That's what I really want to work on. Make sure my kids know that they are amazing. Yep, that's my biggest goal. So 5 years from now, they'll know that, and I'll have a better nutritional outcome. 5 years from now.
Wonderful. Ladies and gentlemen, you have just met the amazing Miss Angelia Gil, Program Director, Organizational Change Manager at Darkness to Light, entrepreneur, uh, overall, just an outstanding ray of light and energy. Thank you so much for your time. It has been so well appreciated.
Thank you. If anybody wants to reach out to talk, I'm happy to make myself available. I'm happy. Thank
Okay,
you for having me.
wonderful.